Bienvenidos. Welcome everyone to Elevate Your Presence, How to Get Seen at Work. I'm Ruby Garcia, your Latina leadership coach, and I'm excited to explore with you how Latina professionals and leaders and Latinos too can amplify their visibility in the workplace in order to create in order to influence our impact and create change. So over the next 25 minutes, we're going to discuss why visibility matters, strategies for enhancing your presence, and as well as talk about the broader importance of representation. So I'm gathered some information and I'm going to give you some practical tips that you can start applying right away. While folks are jumping on, go ahead and feel free to comment in the chat. Let me know you're here and where you're listening from. And while I'm primarily focused on, in general, I primarily focus on the experience of Latina professionals. I want you to know that these insights and strategies can benefit professionals from all different backgrounds and genders. So amplifying our visibility is really important as Latinas because we are facing things like the wage gap and barriers to career. But really, visibility is not just about our own personal success. It's also about creating more inclusive and equitable workplaces for everyone. So shout out to todos los hombres and los non-Latinos that maybe have joined. I'm glad to see you here. Let's see if you would just want to drop in the chat where you're listening in from. Okay, we have Monica, personal brand and communication strategist from New York City. Victoria from Indiana. Thank you for joining today. We're going to be talking about elevating your presence and getting more visibility. For whatever reason, I'm a little bit tongue-tied today. Might be tired. But anyways, I'm excited to be here with you all. Before we get started, I do want to let you all know, and I'll mention at the end, I know sometimes people have to jump off early, they jump on later, but I want to let you know that I have a visibility challenge going on between August 12th and August 16th. It's a free challenge, and this is for you if you want to build your personal brand or share your story. You want to write on LinkedIn, but maybe you're not sure where to start. You want to be able to expand your network. You want to show up and tell your story authentically, including your professional achievements. And this challenge is your chance. So we'll meet on Zoom every single day during August 12th through the 16th. So that's Monday through Friday. Try to make it during lunchtime at about 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll provide a mini lesson. We'll do some Q&A, have some coaching, and then there's going to be an actionable challenge that you'll be able to apply that same day. And the awesome part is I'm going to give you feedback on that challenge. It is going to be a live challenge. I will not be recording it. So you will want to show up if you want to be a part of that. So it's great if you want to boost your visibility at work, or if you just want to learn how to show up more on LinkedIn. This is the challenge for you. So just message me challenge to get the registration link, or you can also go to the link in my bio and it's there. But again, thank you for joining everybody. Today we're talking about elevating your presence, how to get seen at work, and just about how you can amplify your visibility in the workplace in order to create impact. So I'm going to dive right in. As Latina professionals, our unique perspectives and talents are valuable assets to any organization. But the thing that I hear over and over is that our contributions often go unnoticed. And this can really impact our career growth and just the impact that we want to make. So when we're not visible, we miss out on recognition at work, we miss out on advancement opportunities, we miss out on the chance to influence decisions, to have a seat at the table, we miss out on mentorship and sponsorship opportunities, and the ability to impact future generations through, by showing up and serving as a role model. And so visibility is super important. And there's a great book out there that I highly recommend. It's by Katie Kay and Claire Shipman, and it's called The Confidence Code. And they talk about the gap that exists between men and women in professional settings. And you might have even heard it. You've heard how men have 30% of qualifications and they'll apply for a job. A woman feels like they can't apply for a job unless they have all 100% of the checklist checked off, right? And so that's, and as Latinas, we may even face more of these barriers just because of some of the cultural and societal influences that go in there. But we have to understand that visibility is really important. It's not about increasing, it's not increasing visibility isn't about our ego. It is about ensuring that our voices are heard and that our talents are being recognized. This is not the time to be humble. This is not the time to stay calladita. The wage gap is continuing to go backwards instead of forwards. I think the last time I heard it's like over 200 years in order to reach equity. And there are, for sure, without a doubt, a lot of systemic issues. And I don't want to overlook that because, as we know, there is a system that was set up without us being included in that design. And so I do want to acknowledge that. And it's also important to show up and also do our part. And I know that this is an issue, being seen and getting visibility, because it's something that I hear frequently from you. I get emails, either emails in my inbox or just in conversation or leadership programs that I facilitate. And I know that being seen, showing up, putting yourself out there, it still seems very risky and scary for many. And again, I know this because I hear it on a regular basis. And so this is for you. This is the reason why I provide these, either audio LinkedIn lives or LinkedIn live streams, because I know, because I want you to have access to information that you can apply immediately. Not everyone has access to coaching, but everyone can jump on, a free live stream and get some information. So again, we've talked about some of the barriers that exist. And, there are things like, and I'm not going to dive too much into this because I feel like I cover this in a lot of my lives, but we have cultural norms that maybe discourage us from standing out. There's implicit bias and stereotypes. There's a lack of representation in leadership. I mean, the numbers just about in any industry across any board, it's anywhere from, it always seems to be less than 5%. I don't think I've seen anything over 5%, right? When we are now 20% of the population, when it comes to media or Latinas in tech or authors or attorneys, it's like tends to be around the 2% mark even. So very low representation. Imposter syndrome is huge. In the book Presence, which I'll maybe occasionally hear throughout today, make a couple references to Amy Cuddy, who you might know her from her TED Talk, talks about, she talked a lot about power poses and how to feel more powerful, but she also talks about how imposter syndrome can be really challenging for high achieving individuals. And many of us, especially if we were the only, the few, or the first, have experienced imposter syndrome and feeling like we're a fraud. And even though we are highly competent, many of us have different degrees and credentials and all of that, but still we feel like we don't belong. And recently, actually, I became an imposter syndrome informed coach through the Imposter Syndrome Institute, which is founded by Dr. Valerie Young, who's been researching imposter syndrome or imposter phenomena for over 40 years. And one of the key takeaways that about imposter syndrome that was kind of reiterated throughout the program is that it's a very normal and human experience. But what it is it's how we respond to those imposter feelings or the patterns that show up that can kind of make us or break us, so to speak. And it is true that first gen or marginalized groups may feel more of it. I will say the myth is that women feel it more than men. That is actually not true. Men feel it just as much as women. But recognizing that this is a barrier is one of the first steps to overcoming them. So as I take you through this, please feel free to connect with each other. I see a question already about where do I sign up for the workshop you mentioned before. That free visibility workshop is you can either find it in my bio, like in my LinkedIn profile bio, and it says I think it says join my visibility workshop, or even on today's post at the very bottom. And I think yesterday's post, so there. But you can sign up for that, and I'll see if I can drop the link in here at the end too as well. So thanks for that question. And thanks. I see you, Maria, Olga, Jimena, Jennifer. Thank you for joining today. So good to be with all of you. Make sure that you're connecting with each other too. Adriana from Texas. Stephanie's here. Hasta mi tía Pachita. Hola, tía. This is my favorite aunt. If you guys remember, I wrote about her just recently in my LinkedIn newsletter about how we would grow up and we played loteria, and that was at my tía Pachitas. And so, tía, mucho verla. Adriana says, my challenge is more about celebrating accomplishments without the slimy salesman feeling. Oh, yes. Okay. All right. That's a good one. All right. Hola, de Chicago, Lorena. I'm so glad. Wow, we got a good active group. Make sure that you're connecting with each other. You know, this is always not just about the information I'm going to give you. It's also about building community, because some of you are further in your careers. Some of you are at the beginning. Some of you have different knowledge and expertise. And so we can all learn from each other. So I'm going to dive right into this. And I'm going to share some, like I said, I'm probably going to share for maybe another 15 minutes. And then I'm going to open it up for Q&A. But feel free to keep conversations going on in the chat, and I'll come back to that. So let's start to explore some of the strategies that can help us increase our visibility. And the first one is be confident. This is a question that I get super often. I think the two things people come to me the most for is, I want to be more confident and I want to overcome imposter syndrome. So the way that we build confidence, one of the ways I should say that we build confidence, is through self-awareness. So start to reflect. What are you good at? What are some of your strengths and skills? What comes easy to you? What are the things that you enjoy doing? The things that you get caught up and lost in time doing? Who are you? Like, not just your title or the roles that you play, but who really are you at your core? What's your story? What can you own about your story? And here's even a bigger clue. What are parts of your story that you're struggling to tell? That might be a little clue into some internal work that needs to be done. And also something that might be getting in the way of your confidence. What are some of the trials or obstacles or barriers that you've had to endure and that you've overcome? What are you proud of? One of the best ways that we can build our confidence is just by starting to recognize our strengths and our achievements, and looking back and reflecting on past successes that we've had. That's a wonderful way to help build a strong sense of self-worth. And another thing is it also means leveraging our cultural strengths. So you don't have to hide your cultural identity, but really let it shine as an asset. And then what is the way that you're talking to yourself, right? What kind of self-talk do you have? Self-talk is huge. 1 second here, lost track of my notes here. We can either be our own worst critic, or we can be our biggest cheerleader. Which are you? Are you your own worst critic, or are you your biggest cheerleader? If you notice, one of the things that I have with my clients do is start to notice their self-talk and to actually even tally certain thoughts that they might be having. And interesting, there's a lot of talk out there about neuroplasticity and the way our brain works. And so we have to challenge our negative thoughts and look for evidence that focuses on the positive. But here's the interesting thing about that. For every one negative thought, it takes 5 positive thoughts to outweigh that. So we really have to be critical about the type of self-talk that we're engaging in. a huge part of confidence is actually self-acceptance and self-love. Because when you have those two things, your self-efficacy or your self-belief actually grows. And in that case, even though maybe you haven't done something before or stepping out of your comfort zone, and yes, it is scary, when you're confident, you still know that you'll be able to figure it out. In other words, you're aware that you might not have everything you need in this particular moment, but you're capable of learning. And when things maybe don't go right, you don't take it personal. You're not internalizing it that you weren't good at something. You're not saying I'm not good enough because of that. It's just like that might not be in your wheelhouse. I know last year I took a mediation class, and because I sit on the local county commissioner board for the Human Rights Commission. And so I took this class to practice my mediation skills that might come up. And what I realized is I'm not a good mediator because I wear everything on my face. My biases show through. Like, you'll know exactly what I think, even if I'm not saying it, just merely by looking at me, right? And so, but I didn't take it as something bad. In fact, it goes back to the self-awareness. Okay, maybe that's not the best thing. Yes, I gained some skills from that I can utilize, but let's just say I'm never going to move into the mediator business, which at one point I actually thought about expanding into. Now I know that that's not going to be for me, right? Every time that we engage in different activities too, we have an opportunity to build our confidence. And what comes to mind is two things, actually. One is I had a client last year, I think it was, who was, pretty high profile and wanted to do more speaking. Because it didn't look like her colleague's story, of growing up in a very nice affluent neighborhood, or going to a great school, or going to Ivy League schools. And so she associated her experience as not enough or bad or just negative or something to be embarrassed about. But when she really owned that, like, there was so much power in her story, right? And people from many different backgrounds can relate. And now she's done a couple of speaking engagements, and she's telling her story, especially with students who are also Latino, and can really benefit and relate to her experiences. And another thing I was going to say was that 2 years ago, I actually walked the Camino de Santiago, which is like a pilgrimage through Spain. And, any chance I get, I love to bring it up because it was one of my favorite things. But I think about how many times I had told myself I wasn't athletic, and then pushing myself to walk this pilgrimage. And I walked about 300 miles in 20 days. And that was a way for me to build my confidence when it came to physical abilities. And if you know my personal story and having a physical disability, I always shied away from anything athletic, because I didn't feel like, as someone with a disability, that was something I could participate in, right? But it actually helped me to build my confidence, and it helped me to break that limiting belief. And while that's not directly applicable to the workplace, the confidence part is, because now I have that additional confidence that says that I can do hard things, even physical hard things. So the first one is be confident. The second, or the next thing, is be courageous. Be courageous. One of the questions I get a lot is, which comes first, courage or confidence? So drop in the comments. What do you think comes first? Is it courage that comes first so that you can become more confident? Or do you have to be more confident so that you can develop more courage? Let's see what everybody says here. Courage or confidence? Drop it in the chat. What do you think comes first, courage or confidence? Everyone's shy. No one's saying. All right. So One of the ways that you develop confidence is by being courageous. And courage is the willingness to take risk and to act in the face of fear or in the face of uncertainty or discomfort. So it involves stepping outside of your comfort zone in order to pursue growth or different opportunities. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that builds confidence like actually taking action. Action is the differentiator between those that think versus those that do. And it's also the differentiator between those that stay stuck and those that get ahead, even at the expense of failure. One of the coaches that I worked with ingrained in me the mantra of fail fast and fail forward. And why did she say this? Because failing allows us to learn about what works and what doesn't. And it allows us to readjust and then again to see what works. Right? Thomas Edison failed 2,777 times, according to his records, and then reached a working design of what we know today as the light bulb. And his response was, I have not failed 10,000 times. I have successfully found 10,000 ways that it will not work. And I didn't have time to pull up the other story, but Kentucky Fried Chicken has a similar story where it was with the recipe, and I think it took like 100 times for someone to like invest in the franchise. And then Sarah Blakely, who's the owner of Spanx, is another great example. She talks about how at the kitchen table, talking about failures was really normal. Her dad would ask, what did you fail in? How did you fail today? It was actually something that was celebrated because failure meant that you tried. It meant that you were getting outside of your comfort zone, that you were trying something new, that you were learning. And so many of us have a negative relationship with failure because we interpret failure as I'm a failure rather than a circumstance in which there was a misstep, right? And so we have to remember that to separate the actions or the misstep from the identity portion, because failing is part of the human experience. There's not one person listening in today that has not failed. We've all failed because we're human, right? And so failing allows us to let go of perfection, and it pushes us towards making progress. And courage is essential for both developing and expressing confidence, right? It's the driving force that encourages action despite the possibility of failure or criticism or critique. And especially for Latinas, courage is vital in challenging traditional roles and expectations. We have to learn how to advocate for ourselves and break through workplace barriers that maybe are not fully inclusive. Some are even toxic. And we also need courage if we want to take risk, if we want to pursue leadership roles or get involved in initiatives that align with either our professional or personal goals. So remember, take action, embrace failure. It is actually the thing that will breed more confidence. I know it sounds contrary to what you might think, but what I have to say is don't wait till you feel 100% ready. Don't wait till you feel 100% ready. Take risk, learn from the failures, and move on. Be competent. So competence refers to the skills, the knowledge, and the abilities that allow you to perform effectively in a specific or particular area. And competence is built generally through learning, through like your education. It could be informal learning too, through practice, experience, just repetition. And competence can build more confidence. So as we become more skilled or more competent in a certain area, then we become more confident in our abilities. I remember the very first time that I ever facilitated the Mujeres Asset Leadership Cohort, my very first cohort, I was so scared. I was like, I don't know why I said yes. I don't know why they asked me to do this. Like, maybe I'm not ready. I've never done this before. It was very insecure because it was a new area for me, right? But now I've facilitated that program, I don't know, 5 times, and then 2 for the entrepreneurs group. So I'm like 7 times in. And now it doesn't feel that same way, right? Because I've done it over and over again, and I've prepared myself and I've practiced it. And so I've developed my confidence around delivering that program. And so confidence can encourage the development of confidence, because when we believe in ourselves, we're more likely to take on challenges that are going to help us grow. And especially, this is going to be really important if you want a mentor or a sponsor. And you've heard me say it before. You've heard mi amigo Raf talk about this in his book, The Latino Leadership Playbook. Latinos are over-mentored and under-sponsored. So we need to have a sponsor. And competency is going to be important if you want a sponsor, because if someone is going to go out on the limb and put their name on the line and their reputation on the line for you, they want to know that you're going to do a good job, that you're up to the task. So you have to develop the competence. Now, that is not saying that you have to be good at everything. Again, remember what I said at the very beginning about that checklist, and women don't apply for jobs because they don't check 100% of the qualifications. Listen, you don't have to be good at everything. In fact, I actually think be really great, excellent even at 2 or 3 things, maybe a solid good, 5 to 7, 5 to 8 things, and then allow yourself to suck at the rest. It's all right. You don't have to be good at everything. I say this to my high school son. He's a bit of a perfectionist. And I tell him, you don't have to try to be good at everything, right? That we're all gifted with different talents. So build the competence and seek excellence around those 2 to 3 things. Get really good at maybe those 5 to 8 things, and focus your area there. Okay, so that you can be competent, you can find a sponsor, identify a sponsor, and have someone that's going to be advocating for you and championing you. All right. Next is, lost my notes here. Bear with me here. Next is, okay, competence. Let me see if I got anything else that I might have missed. No. Okay. Next is be communicative. I'm not even sure if that's really a word or not, but how about I put it this way? Be in communication. Be in communication. This is super important, right? In order to develop your brand, you're going to have to be able to articulate your strengths, and you're going to have to be able to articulate the value that you bring or the impact that you're making within your organization. And that means being able to share your accomplishments openly. Don't do the humble brag. There was a study actually by UNC, which is where I go, not in my department, but there was a study by the UNC that says nobody likes a humble bragger. Humble bragging will get you nowhere. It is actually, people are least trusting when you humble brag. So don't shy away from highlighting your successes. It's not about bragging, or maybe you don't have to think about it as bragging. Bragging does not even faze me anymore, that terms, because I don't have a negative connotation to it. But I know for some of us, because humility is so instilled in our culture, that it can be difficult. Think about it as you're ensuring that your contributions are recognized. And I think this is even more important because of the narratives out there about us. And, I'm not going to get into, political stuff, but, we're entering the political season. And so there's a lot of rhetoric out there. And it's important for us to be able to control the narrative. And especially you as an individual, if you want to advance in your career or are looking for other opportunities or whatever the case is, it's really important that you're able to articulate the contributions that you bring, not only just for yourself and for your next move, but also for the collective, right? Because again, Latinos make so many contributions to this country, and we make a difference. And sometimes people don't even know the things that we're involved in, right? I've been seeing some posts around like Sylvia Mendez, which was a case that set the precedent for Brown versus the Board of Education. Most people don't even know about that. You know, there's going to be a movie coming out on that, I think either this year or next summer. But, you know, we need to know not only our history, but we also need to know about the contributions, and more importantly, others need to also know about the contributions that we're making in this country. So again, don't just look at it as focusing on yourself, but also it's really important that everybody else recognizes the contributions that we're making. All right, enough said about that. Look for speaking opportunities. Look for chances to present at meetings or conferences. You know, be fully present in these moments and be authentic. And if you're not sure where to start, if you don't know how to speak up, you can go back and check out my live, I think from 2 weeks ago that I did. It was all about the courage to speak up. One of the things that I recommend is a framework I created called RISE. It's recognize, initiate, speak up, and evaluate. And so with the RISE model, you're identifying when it's important to speak up. And then you're going to initiate the conversation. So you're going to schedule a meeting with whoever the person is, whether it's a manager to discuss your career goals or a potential mentor or a sponsor, or, you know, it could be a home situation. Then you're going to speak up. You're going to confidently ask for what you need or share your ideas. And then you're going to evaluate the outcome. So you're going to assess if your requests were met, and then what feedback might be useful to you in the future. So that's the RISE model. And what it could look like is just thinking about like getting ahead in your career, recognizing the need for visibility by identifying when your contributions warrant recognition. So you might start by acknowledging and saying something like, hey, I've been taking on high impact projects. I really want to be able to showcase my leadership skills more prominently. And then you're going to initiate the conversation with your manager or your mentor about your career path. And you can say something like, I really like to explore opportunities for advancement within the company. Or how can I get into a leadership role? What would I need to do? And then you're going to speak confidently about your achievements and your ambitions. And then you might say something like, I successfully led the team on XYZ, or I have an innovative idea that could benefit our department, or, you know, I'd like to share with you some metrics. And it's really important to be able to track those metrics also, by the way. And then lastly, you're going to evaluate the outcome. So, you know, you could say something like, has there been any changes in how my contributions are being perceived? Or what do you think are the next steps for my career development? So the RISE model is recognize, initiate, speak up, and evaluate. And that's going to empower you just to be more visible. And I'm going over. Sorry, I just knew I was going to today. And this is the last one. I'll keep it really short. And then if there's questions, you can ask those and I'll go back in the chat and look here. But the last one is be connected. So, you know, I talk about all this all the time. I even said it at the very beginning, connect with each other. It's all about comunidad, foster the comunidad, build a strong network, lead into your network, not just within the Latino community, but outside of the Latino community. Because again, there's not enough representation. And if we're only leaning on each other, there's few of us. So we need to have our allies, right? So network out within and also outside our community. Attend different events. Join professional associations. Alpha, Latinas in Tech, Prospanica, ACE, ACER. There's so many. Lean in Latinas. And then, you know, build those relationships. It's not a one and done. It's not transactional. It's about really building a relationship that's meaningful and is a win-win on both parts. Another way that you can get connected is by seeking out opportunities for high visibility projects, volunteer for projects that might get you noticed, get involved in the community. And then again, I just want to emphasize finding mentors and sponsors, identify who those senior leaders are, that might be able to advocate for you and give you some guidance. So a couple things in closing, and then I'll answer questions if there's any, is remembering that courage is often the bridge between competence and confidence. So sometimes we need courage to act out on our competence, especially when we're not fully yet confident. And at the same token, confidence can also fuel our courage. So when we feel confident, we're more willing to actually take those courageous actions or take risk. And then courageous actions can really both build competence and confidence. So taking brave steps when we're uncertain can help us develop new skills and just increase our self-efficacy or our self-belief again. So when we increase our visibility as Latina professionals, we contribute to a better representation, which has, much more sustainable impact. It means that we're challenging stereotypes and breaking down barriers. It means we're being role models for future generations. It means that we're bringing a diverse perspective to decision-making tables. And, hopefully we're creating change that can lead to more inclusive policies and practices. So as Latino leaders, we have the opportunity to be able to pave the way for others. And every time we come into the spotlight, we're opening the doors for others to follow. So again, to help you put all these ideas into practice, I want to invite you to join my free 5-day LinkedIn Visibility Challenge. It's going to be running August 12th through the 16th. We're going to work on projecting confidence through building an online presence, embracing your authentic self. So doing it in a way that doesn't feel slimy. I forgot who else said that, but, doing it in a way that doesn't feel slimy, but feels really authentic and aligned. And then also building a strong professional network. So you'll learn practical strategies for leveraging LinkedIn to increase your visibility. And every day I will personally be giving you feedback on it. So exactly, how to readjust if you need to. So you can sign up by going to the link in my bio, and I'll hopefully drop it in here in a second, or after the replay, I'll drop it in the chat. But do one thing today. Take one micro step to get yourself more seen today. And I just want to thank you, everyone, for joining today. Remember that amplifying your visibility isn't just about your personal success. It's about creating a more equitable and inclusive workplace for all. And we have so much to offer as Latinas, as Latino professionals. And it is really time for our voices to be heard and our contributions to be valued. So I look forward to seeing you at the LinkedIn Visibility Challenge. And if you have questions, drop it in the chat, and I'll see if I can answer them. But again, thank you for joining today. And, I did there were 5 C's. It was confidence, courage, competence, what was the one before? Connection and community. But there are probably a couple other ones too that I would have added, but I didn't want to make it too long. And I might create a whole other half that's about specifically around executive presence, but hopefully that will have spoken to you. And I think you can apply a lot of it right away. So if there's any questions, drop them in the chat. I'm going to look here real quick. And if not, thank you again for attending. I hope to see you at the LinkedIn Challenge, the Visibility Challenge, where we'll be building our LinkedIn presence. And what better way to do it? It is to do it together, to do it in community, right? And even doing things in community helps to build that courage. Sometimes it's scary to do things alone, but when you have someone there nudging you along the way, it makes things so much easier. It makes it fun. It's like you can do it. Si se puede. All right. Adriana says she's in San Antonio and feels like she needs to build community with chingonas. So please reach out to Adriana if you want to set up a reoccurring touch point. Let's see. Christina, you said, how do you think Latinas can break the cycle of humble bragging, especially as you mentioned, it's instilled in our culture? Work hard, keep your head down, let your work speak for itself mentally. So my answer to that is two things. One is, how is that serving you? Like, how is being humble serving you in the workplace? And is it getting you the opportunities? Are you advancing as fast of a pace as you want? If I could have gone back, it would have been to self-advocate and articulate the value that I bring a company faster. I wish I would have developed those skills faster, because I guarantee my career would have accelerated had I done that. So that's one thing, is just to ask yourself, is this serving me? And then the second part is reframing it. Humility is not a bad thing. There is a time and place to be humble. It's great to be humble if you're asking for help. It's great to be humble when you're learning new things, when you're a beginner. It's not the best thing to do when you're applying for a promotion, when you're trying to identify a sponsor, when you're asking for more money, when you're trying to get a job. So it's important to notice that there's duality with it. So it's, how do we reframe humbling, or the humble bragging? How do we reframe the humble bragging? And it could be about reframing it as articulating the value that you bring to an organization. It could be, amplifying the impact of your work, amplifying the impact of the contribution of Latinos. Those are some of the ways. I think I'm going to create a whole post on that one. But hopefully that helps you, Christina. Let's see. Yes, Jennifer says, I once heard the thoughts you will have will generate the feelings you're feeling, and those feelings will motivate your actions or inactions. Those actions or inactions will drive our results or lack of results. It all starts with the way that we think of ourselves. Absolutely. There's neuroscience that actually proves, and there's a whole book, I'm trying to think of what it's called, maybe Clean Up the Mess. Don't have it right here with me. But there is a whole book that talks about this. Our thoughts, starts with our thoughts. Our thoughts will feed into our feelings. Our feelings will feed into our behaviors. Our behaviors that we consistently do will turn into habits. Our habits develop into our character, and then our character turns into our destiny. So that is absolutely true. And that's actually taken from Do Things. The neuroscience part is just the first half, which is thoughts, feelings, behaviors. And then the second part, I think, is a saying I heard somewhere. So just to clarify on that. All right, everyone. I will go back. I think I got all the questions, but I appreciate you showing up. I am always in search of new ideas to bring you, topics that you want to hear about. If you have ideas, if you want to hear on something, drop me a DM, let me know. Join the Visibility Challenge, taking place August 12th through the 16th, 1 p.m. Eastern, free challenge. It'll be off LinkedIn. It'll be in a private Zoom room, and let's get to work. And I hope to see you there. Keep shining, everyone. Have a great day.